all the work that you've done over these 20 years with working and training young men, you're always looking at the broken father and the broken son together.
Frederick Douglass said that it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And although that is true, I do not believe Frederick meant that we should leave men broken. You have intergenerational trauma that travels throughout generations.
Yeah.
Trauma time travels. When I work with the boys, it's interesting because the fathers come in the Cave of Adullam. When their son has an emotional moment on the mat, I see their father intently watching. And then after class, they start opening up to me more and more and saying, I need to heal because I'm not the father to him that I desire, I'm the father that I had. As men, we wear trauma like a badge of honor, especially in the Black community. As long as we consider suffering in silence, this code of honor, we'll never find freedom. Community starts when you build families. As long as you stay single out here and you're not creating your own kingdom, all right? You tripping on me. But if you're not... If
Wait a minute, I feel hit, Jason. Wait a minute, go ahead. You said some men are not marrying who they really want to be with because of their emotions. So you got to dive into that. For someone who's listening, what's the first step that they have to do to break free? Welcome to Vaught Empowers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. But before I introduce my guest for today, I need you to go ahead and do me a favor. I need you to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss your daily dose of inspiration and motivation. But without further ado, now y'all in for a treat today because this is my friend, best friend. We go way back, twin. Jason Wilson is the director of the Cave of Adullam Transformational Academy, a program of the Union nonprofit organization he founded in 2003. In 2016, one of CATTA's videos went viral with over 80 million views worldwide. As a result, Mr. Wilson's work has been featured on the Dr. Oz Show, President Obama's My Brother's Keeper showcase at the White House, and NBC's hit TV show, This Is Us. As the author of Battle Cry, Waging and Winning the War Within, Cry Like a Man, Fighting for Freedom from Emotional Incarceration, and his latest book, The Man the Moment Demands, Jason equips men with mental and spiritual weapons needed to wage war and win the inner war. Mr. Wilson has over 25 years of martial arts experience, in addition to over 20 years of training and developing young Black males. Jason Wilson believes don't live from what you lack, but live for what you long for. Vaught Empowers Talks welcome teacher, husband, and emotional healer, Jason Wilson, to the show.
I feel like I'm about to fight somebody.
You about to walk into the ring.
I'm walking out.
Listen.
Yes. Thank you. It's
oh my goodness.
It's a pleasure to finally meet in person.
In person.
Yes.
Like I literally this morning, I told you before we got on camera that I was reflecting this morning. I was reading through the book and I was like, I wonder if he remembers that conversation we had the very first time I called him in 2016.
Yeah, I never forgot it. As a father, what you were sharing, it was so transparent, poignant, and right in the moment, as I was en route for the interview with Dr.
Oz, yeah.
You made me reflect on my role as a father.
Wow.
Just hearing your heart. And just recently, I direct messaged you.
You did.
And thanked you again for that. Because as a father, we're constantly trying to evolve to become better. And I saw some more flaws that I needed to correct.
Wow.
And to be more present and more discerning of what my daughter and children would need. So thank you for that.
Here's what people don't know. I called you because I was in the 2016 80 million views, okay? Yes. And at the time, I was the executive director of the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation. And I reached out to you for the mentoring camp. Yes, yeah. But when I reached out to you, I don't even know how I got your number, child. I don't even know how I found you. I get your number and you answer the phone. And literally, I told you I was driving down Cascade here in Atlanta. And I remember going under the overpass, going onto 285. And I remember the tears that I shed in talking to you in a very short amount of time. Yes. People don't know. We was on the phone for like 15, 20 minutes maybe.
Yes, and like I said, I typically won't answer a phone before going to Dr. Oz. I was nervous. This came out of nowhere. I didn't expect all of the attention. But when I saw your number, it was like the Holy Spirit say, answer this number. And so answer this call. So when I picked it up, you told me who you were, And we immediately dived in like we already knew each other. So
It was so, I said, now I know you anointed. I said, because baby, I done got on here and in 20 minutes, I started crying to you. I said, are you my therapist? That was before I started therapy, Jason. So listen, that was my cry in the dark.
It was a divine timing, and I've been through enough. So I pray that, he anoints me with what's needed to continue. And so I believe the anointing comes to those who have endured a lot. And I actually prayed to be broken before that moment happened, because he always had been calling me young to be his servant.
Yeah.
And even when I surrendered my life to Yeshua, Jesus, I still was like, I need to still want to do it my way. And then one day I literally prayed to him. I said, you know what, Abba? I'm still in your way. You're going to have to break me. And so that came with a near-death experience from a shoulder surgery.
I mean, you almost were crushed
Yes.
while you were working.
And I had those two incidents prior to praying to be broken. I still wouldn't listen.
But you said even when you were like about to be crushed while you were working, you got to tell the story.
Okay, yeah. Well, what's I could tell. Can I show all three of them?
Yes.
So the first one, I was producing music, and that was my desire. I grew up being a DJ.
Yeah.
And I was driving a friend's truck to our studio, and for some reason he didn't go with me this evening. I had no idea that his mother told him not to drive because someone had to get in an accident. And his mother became a spiritual mother of mine. Well, that someone was me. And to keep a long story short, I'm driving back from the studio. I didn't notice a car was stalled in the middle of the road because the street lights were dim because it had just finished raining. By the time I approached the vehicle, it was too late to respond, but I swerved anyway. The truck flipped over 2 times and almost died. I still didn't listen in, even after his mother telling me she was told by God that he was calling me.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I had to get a job at Coca-Cola because my fiance at the time gotten pregnant, had a daughter out of wedlock, and I needed insurance. Had to put the music dreams on hold and work at Coca-Cola. I was very frustrated, working 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at least. And I blasphemed God because I had studied Egyptology, Buddhism, metaphysics, and Islam. And I told my wife during my last break, I said, there's no Jesus. I said, the only son coming through the clouds is Ra, which was the Egyptian god. And she told me, don't say that. You shouldn't say that. And I said, I don't care. And I hung the phone up. 10 minutes later, I unloaded the truck like I would do every night.
Yeah.
But this night, the driver didn't lock his brakes. My high-low hit the back of his truck. High-low fell off the dock with me in it, 2 herniated discs. And that's when I surrendered to God after that. I said, Most High, your will be done. So I went from listening to secular hip-hop one day to the very next day listening to Fred Hammond.
Yeah, you said it
happened. It was real. But I wasn't running from him anymore, but I wasn't running to him.
Yeah.
And that's when I prayed, when I was renovating our home. I said, I need you to break me because I'm not going to listen to you. It's still a lot of me in your way. That breaking came through a near-death experience from a shoulder surgery. But the completion of the breaking came when my mother developed dementia.
I read this in a book, and this was like your transformation as a son of what your mother experienced and what you had to watch as your mother was developing dementia over the years.
Yes, I mean, I wasn't a mischievous boy growing up, but I wasn't a loving son where I didn't take care of my mother like I should.
Yeah.
And the scriptures say, God will not be mocked. We will reap what we sow. And it was interesting. Many of the nights I would get calls from where she was staying in an assisted living home. Your mother, we need you to come by because she won't calm down. 2 a.m, 3 a.m, I have to get up before work to go over to calm my mother. And one day I got upset, angry at God. I'm like, why are you allowing this to happen? He said, you remember when you used to DJ and you would stay out all night, you wouldn't call your mother, and you come home in the morning and she'd be on the front porch worrying, thinking that you were dead just like your brother, and you didn't care? I said, yeah. He says, well, it's your turn now to experience it.
Wait a minute.
And so that humbled me, and that's when I realized I needed to become what I call a comprehensive man.
Oof.
And so caring for my mother, I had to learn to become more than masculine. And so I was just a hyper-masculine male, you know, hip-hop DJ.
Yeah.
Both brothers were in drugs, selling drugs. Unfortunately, both of them are gone now. but that's how I was raised. Go ahead.
The story that you tell about your brother, because you tell the story in the book about, you've told the story about how your brother worked at a gas station, and the dope boy came up who had the girl in the car that he wanted, and he said, and they laughed at him, and while he's working his good black job, they laughed at him, and he said never again, and that was the moment he turned into, like, I'm going to be a drug dealer. I'm going to get money. I'm going to do it.
And he was a millionaire. Like nothing. My brother had $100,000 watches in the late '80s. And everything was at his dispense. But unfortunately, it wasn't just that experience. It was when our father didn't really pour into him growing up. And it was another point that triggered that mindset was when he just asked for some money for some gym shoes. My father, who was a well-known barber, only gave my brother $15. And my brother said it was that and that gas station experience that said, I'm never going to depend on anyone again.
Wow.
And when my brother was murdered, it took a lot of years off my father's life because, to give him some grace, he didn't know how to be a comprehensive father.
Yeah.
He only knew how to provide and protect. And it really convicted him. It took a lot of years off of him. And excuse me, I was there watching him, and thankfully he decided that he didn't want that to be the result with me and him, and we were able to reconcile our relationship before the Most High took him home.
Yeah, and not long before.
No. Yeah, 93. It was actually some time my father had developed Parkinson's disease.
Oh, wow.
And he passed in 2007. So from 1993 to 2007, that's when my father's health started to deteriorate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I chose not to hold a grudge because, we were in the same city, and he would provide at times when I was in need, but he didn't provide what I really longed for, which was his presence.
Yeah.
But I chose to not allow Satan to get 2 for 1 when he goes, because I see so many men now walk around with that broken boy inside of them that could have been healed if they could have pushed through their emotions and allowed that conversation to happen.
We are tracking because that was really leading into the next question of all the work that you've done over these 20 years with working and training young men. You're always looking at the broken father and the broken son together. And what does that dynamic really, how does it show up?
It's Frederick Douglass says, and we often quote this in youth work, especially when you work with black males, that it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And although that is true, I do not believe Frederick meant that we should leave men broken, and that's what's happening. So you have intergenerational trauma that travels throughout generations. Or I say trauma time travels. And so what stops it? We need to have healing.
I love that. Trauma time travels. We picking it up and carrying it in every age and stage of our life.
And that's why we can't live in the present.
Yeah.
And that's why we miss the moments as men. So often we're reacting from a childhood wound instead of responding as a mature man in that moment. And so when I work with the boys, it's interesting because the fathers come in the Cave of Adullam, and when their son has an emotional moment on the mat, I see their father intently watching. And then after class, the father says, wow, I dealt with that as well as a boy. And they start opening up to me more and more and saying, I need to heal because I'm not the father to him that I desire. I'm the father that I had.
Oof.
And so it's just a blessing because now I'm able to engage both the father and son, heal the boy, and at the same time heal the father. And my prayer is that we can stop intergenerational trauma and start intergenerational healing.
So with that, what does that bridge look like in like that first step of the son and the father, even really finding that common bond that brings them together without you?
That's a heavy question because everyone is different.
Yeah.
I would say one common thing is to get men out of just being disciplined dad. Like, there's a time for tough love, just not all the time. And initially when fathers come, they'll say, man, be on him harder, get tough, make him sweat, make him work. And I look at them, I say, did it work for us?
Yeah.
And they'll look at me and say, no, All right, so let me do what I do and why you brought them here. Over time, these men learn how to be comprehensive in their approach as fathers, meaning I may raise my voice, but instead of condemning you, I'm encouraging you. So I say, come on, Brandi, you got it. Let's go. You got it. Come on, you're stronger than that. Let's go. Let's go. Instead of saying, why are you always making a mistake? Why are you always quitting? You'll never get nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I teach them how to change their perspective on parenting. And with that, they start healing internally because now they can change their perspective on how they were parented. Our parents tried the best they could.
Absolutely.
Okay. They were far from perfect because you got to think they're maybe 2 to 3 generations away from slavery. And so many of our parents had to parent from fight or flight response.
Absolutely.
And that's why they say, I'm beating you so the cop won't kill you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a fear-based parenting. But now that we're out of that period, even though it doesn't feel like it at times.
Yeah.
But my father couldn't sit in a room with another man like this and share his heart.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way. So I believe it's time for us to start letting go of that traumatic time in our life, seek healing, psychotherapy or therapy or counseling to help you be able to process what you felt so that you can move on. And when the fathers are able to release all that they've been holding on and suppressing, they start living from their hearts instead of their fears.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that was really helpful for you along the journey, one of the tools was meditation. Mm-hmm. And you've told this story of how there was an incident one time you bought the building mm-hmm. that you had the youth program in, mm-hmm. and you're coming outside with your son. You got a new Suburban truck, mm-hmm. and somebody's outside on the phone. And there's a situation that ensues, and you have to pull your firearm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was oblivious to the surroundings. We were happy to get the building. And for this one day, I didn't have my firearm already drawn just in case someone would approach me. I come out with my son. I see a young man on the phone. And as I'm walking to my truck, he yells out, "Someone's trying to kill me." And I look at him. I say, "Who's trying to kill you?" He said, "They're coming around the corner now." And I saw the Suburban turning the corner. That's when I draw my weapon. I take my son and say, "Hey, you need to go in the building now and run to the back of the building, because if they started shooting, I know the bullets wouldn't make it to where he was." In that moment, if I became emotional, my son would have became emotional. He would say, "Dad, I want to be with you." You know, that wasn't the time for that. I had to still my emotions and meditate so that I can process everything that was going on. As I'm processing, Brandi, I realized that this young man was actually with them. Yeah. Because if someone is trying to kill you, why aren't you running?
Exactly.
You're too calm. But when I drew my firearm and leaned against my truck to take aim at when they were coming around, he was talking to them, and then they did another U-turn to go the opposite direction. And as I look at him, he starts walking across the street, and I say, "So you're going to run in the direction of the guys that was just trying to kill you?" And he didn't say anything to me. But if I would have lost my emotions, say if I would have started shooting in that moment, see, that's the power of ruling your emotions that so many of us as men, we miss. Like, we have to be a fighter, but we have to know when to turn the lion on and when to turn the lamb on. And in that moment, I had to be still like the lamb, but be poised and ready to protect like the lion. And thankfully, I didn't have to harm anyone that day. And nor did my son, did I ever put him in danger. And a lot of us as men, we get emotional in the moment and really miss the repercussions that could happen before we make that decision. And that's what I wrote about in this book as well.
You talk about the emotional earthquakes.
Yes.
In the book. I mean, you got visuals and everything.
Yes. I wanted to make sure men could take with them what I've been doing for years. You know, and so often we express what I call the surface emotion, which is anger. We've mastered that. But we fail to express what I call the hypersensory emotions or the hyposensory emotions, which is where the earthquake begins. Yeah. So as men, if we're able to express those emotions when they start, instead of saying I'm angry or pissed off, say, "Babe, it hurts me every time you challenge my integrity, or you don't trust me with financial decisions when I've never made a mistake so far." Yeah. When you express it that way, or "I'm just trying to be a better father than my dad was, would you mind showing me some patience?" Now your wife can, instead of being here, if we're yelling, you can drop your guard and open your heart, and we can connect at that level. But typically we go from 0 to 100 and we
Real
express
quick.
anger because it feels safe.
Yeah.
For us to say, "Babe, I'm hurting," or "I'm sad, I'm depressed," It also, I believe, prohibits men from marrying the women that they truly desire, because we've been conditioned to wear a facade or wear a mask and never show our women Bruce Wayne. They can only see Batman.
Yeah.
When you get married, you're going to see my flaws.
But okay, you got to rewind this, Jason, because you said some men are not marrying who they really want to be with because of their emotions. So you got to dive into that.
All right. Well, me working with a lot of men that want to get married, desire it, it's their fear of being exposed for not being this stoic 24/7.
Yeah.
And so I tell men, look, it's time to live authentic. If she doesn't appreciate you being a comprehensive man, basically where I'm strong and sensitive, courageous, but also compassionate, she can't take all of you as a human being. You've been blessed because you know this is the wrong woman. However, when you find the right one, I tell men to stop allowing things that you don't have to stop you from getting who you can.
Oh, you said something about you and your wife. You said something about you guys got it together.
We got it together.
You got it together.
So a lot of my brothers, it's admirable to say, hey, I want to make sure I have a home. I want to make sure I have investments and 2 cars and money for vacations. I get that. But me and my wife, I didn't have that. She actually made more money than I, Brandi, at the time.
Yeah.
But I still was the head of the home. Christ was my head. I was the head over her. And the money went into the same bank account, so it never fazed me. I was rich and I provided much more than what cash could do. And that's why when I was, in the world, the easiest girls to take were the drug dealer girls, because they thought it was just the money that the girls needed. And the girls really wanted more than that. They wanted the emotional connection.
Yeah.
To feel the love instead of you just seeing it with what you buy them.
Yeah.
And so as men, we feel that we have to constantly perform. But when you get married to the right woman, you understand that you are a human being. When I'm weak, my wife, Nicole, comforts me, massages my scalp. I can tell her I'm scared. I'm allowed to feel fear, but I don't succumb to it.
Yeah.
And so I teach men to, live from what you desire, my brother, instead of what you're fearing. And the way we're raised, no pain, no gain. Big boys don't cry. What doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. All of these misleading mantras have enslaved men into what I call emotional incarceration. It appears to be a safe space, but this place is actually the breeding ground for toxic thoughts, which eventually become detrimental actions. But when a man allows himself to process what he feels and be honest with himself, he's able to move past his trauma into a world or to a life that he's been longing for.
Yeah. A life he's been longing for. 25 years. How long have you been married?
26 now.
26 years of marriage. Because your wife just had a birthday.
Yes. Yesterday.
Yeah, she just had her birthday.
Yeah.
So 26 years of marriage, and you've gone on your own emotional journey.
Yes.
Your wife has gone on this journey with you.
Yes.
What has she taught you about yourself on this journey?
That's a good question. My wife is very wise, so she doesn't tell me anything. She I guess teaches me through her actions, and what I mean by that is a person like myself who's endured significant trauma. I often look at the bad side of things instead of the good. My wife, in those instances, are overly optimistic just to show it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just because your best friend dropped dead of a heart attack doesn't mean your new friend will as well.
Yeah.
I would never travel if not for Nicole. And so
So the Abu Dhabi trip in the book.
So
the Dubai trip.
That's a
in the
whole
book.
nother story. But Nicole, she's teaching me through her actions that it's okay to live. It's okay to live without expecting something to go wrong. I was conditioned.
Yeah.
My grandfather was lynched in 1935.
Wow.
And I saw the effects of that on my mother and her siblings' brains. They couldn't take it. My mother had a nervous breakdown in front of me. Then 2 brothers died by homicide. Best friend drops dead of a heart attack on my job.
While mopping the floor, right?
Yes,
He was mopping the floor.
Perfect shape.
Yeah.
Perfect shape. But we didn't know he had a heart condition, and his stress compounded his situation, and he had a massive heart attack. and dropped dead on the floor. And I could go on. And so as men, when we wear trauma like a badge of honor, especially in the Black community, from our music that glorifies violence. We glorify growing up in neighborhoods where you can get murdered instead of being in a stable community, a stable home. You start wearing that like, this is my identity, this is what's going to happen. And to be honest with you, Brandi, I'm just remembering when I turned 30 years old, I took a ride around the city of Detroit to meditate because I didn't think I would live that long.
Wow.
And so that's the mindset that many of us, especially as African-American men, have to, endure and try to overcome. But as long as we consider like suffering in silence, this code of honor, we'll never find freedom.
We will never find freedom.
Yeah.
There's a mindset, as you just said, there's a mindset to freedom. Mm-hmm. And the work that you've been doing with these boys for over 20 years, has really sent you in spaces that I'm sure you didn't even think were going to be on your radar. No. But before you even start teaching how to kick and punch and jab and move and bob and weave in martial arts, you're teaching some fundamental mindset principles.
Yeah, I started, it was all discipline when I first started the Cave of Adullam. But I discovered quickly when the boot camps were failing and the Scared Straight programs were failing that our boys didn't need more discipline, they needed more love. They didn't need to be scared straight, they needed to be healed. And so I decided to shift, instead of 100% discipline and martial arts training, I split it in half. 50% meditation and open discussion before the training. And then after the discussion, we were able to train from the principles that were taught prior. And it worked. My first group was a group of 8th graders that were given to me who were almost, all of them were in danger of not graduating.
Yeah.
Within a 16-week program cycle, they all finished strong.
Yeah.
And I only taught them, Brandi, maybe 2 to 3 martial art techniques. The rest was me loving them and being intentional in their lives and speaking life into them. And no matter where you're growing up, always feel what you feel inside. Live from the good in your heart. Oof. We would do blindfold training so that they would, because if you have a vision that the Most High is giving you and you're constantly looking at what you don't have, the community, whatever it is, it makes it that much more difficult to take the steps needed to walk in faith to accomplish it.
Yeah.
So one of the trainings we do, we take their eyes away and we implement judo techniques where we throw them and they have to fall blindfolded and trust that they know what they have been taught. So we gradually get rid of their fear of failure. That's the first thing we do in the Cave of Adullam. And because of it, we have students who will come with maybe a 0.8 GPA, will end up graduating the program with a 2.8.
Yeah.
No tutoring.
Yeah.
Love, intentional discipleship, and faithfulness, and letting them know, look, I'm here for you regardless. And it's amazing what that does for our young boys.
Yeah. Intentional discipleship. Mm-hmm. I want you to dive into that because most people, we have all these programs out here. We have all these things. They kind of fly by night, some of them. I got an idea. But there's something to be said about intentional discipleship, being intentional about, building and birthing a student, of sorts.
Yeah. Just 2 days ago, one of my kids, he overheard his father tell his mother that he tried to kill him when he was in his mother's womb. So this little boy is still trying to process what he heard his father say. So on the subconscious level, it's saying you're worthless. You're so worthless that your dad was trying to kill you while you were in your mother's womb.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and so as he was running around the mat as we were warming up on Monday, I was encouraging him, let's go, you're doing a good job, let's go. But when he feels he's holding the group up, because purposely we'll put him in front to get him to move past his fear of failure, he starts imploding emotionally. And so then he stops and I pull him over and I immediately drop to my knees because I want to make sure that you know that out of everyone in this room, you have my undivided attention. This is the first time a student told me, when I affirmed him, I say, I want you to repeat after me. Say, I'm intelligent. He says, I'm intelligent. Say, I am powerful. He looks at me and says, I am not powerful.
Whoa.
And I look at him, I said, well, who told you that? And I asked that to get them to start thinking, like, is it you? Is it your friends? What is it? He looked at me, he said, a demon told me that. And that was the first time I said,
And how old is this boy?
He is 9.
Wow.
And I dropped to, I was already on my knees. I took my glasses off and looked into his eyes. And I said, well, I rebuke demons. I say, and I'm going to be in your life to make sure that they don't come around. Just that action alone right there. I said, now say after me, I am powerful. And he looked at me and said, I am powerful. That's intentional. I don't allow a moment like that, a teachable moment, to escape. I called them the very next day. The times that they're not there, they need to know, our children need to know we love them besides the time that we're around them in these programs.
Yeah.
If a mentor could just take maybe 2 minutes to say, hey, man, I was just thinking about you. I got 2 to 3 minutes. How was school today? I've seen it. Just a call once a week help change a boy's life who doesn't have a male role model in his life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So that's just one way it's intentional. 2, when we have high schoolers who are struggling with lust and pornography, I hire a psychotherapist to come teach the negative effects of pornography.
That's got to be rampant right now with high schoolers and
yeah.
smartphones and access to everything 24/7.
They're hypersexual.
Yeah.
And because of it, many of them are literally blowing their high school careers, like on the point where you can get expelled for considering having sex with a girl in the hallway.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait,
So,
what?
So what I'm hearing from my high schoolers, that they don't have to work hard for sex anymore.
Yeah.
And so if a girl is open to having sex and there's enough room in the school where there isn't a camera or under the stairwell, they'll have sex right there.
Oh, yeah.
And we see that a lot. But the point I'm trying to make is that their decision, the processing of these decisions is so poor that they're willing to allow their emotions in that moment to actually change the trajectory of their lives. And so they don't see the negative sides to what they're doing. A lot of times the culture promotes it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not only against that negative mindset, but I'm also against what's birthing that in their minds.
Oof.
And so, again, when they see that I'm willing to, like, hey, we're going to get a therapist here that can help you work through what you're dealing with as far as your lust. We teach them dining etiquette because a lot of our boys...
You have that in the book.
I literally put what we teach our boys in the book, but
You
that's
did.
for men.
It is because, the man, the moment demands. Mm-hmm. Like, as I started, when I started going through the book, I'm like, oh, he's giving you every moment is going to demand something of you.
Something different.
It's going to require something different at whatever stage you are, whether you are a little boy, whether you a big boy, whether you're a grown up, whether you're a husband. You have so many different levels that you talk about in the book, and you're giving all the keys and tools that are going to assist you any and everywhere you go.
That's why we stay stuck, because we're not experienced in those characteristics.
Yeah.
So we'll stay, the protector or the provider, we'll stay in those 2 characteristics. But when our wives need the nurturing, we can't give it to them. I compare it to having a crayon box of 8 crayons and
64,
one of 64.
Yeah.
The women have access to all 64 that the Most High has given both of us. But as men, we pick maybe 4 out of our box of 8 crayons. So when our wife requests a violet emotion, or you meet her in a violet moment, all we have is purple. Or can you meet me in lime? I need to communicate lime. Now we have to try to figure out how to make it with green and yellow. And that's only because of the culture we allowed the culture to define manhood for us.
Yeah.
Instead of staying in God's word to see exactly who we are as men. The Messiah, Yeshua, HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, he was the ultimate comprehensive man.
Yeah.
He was a protector and provider, but he also was a leader.
Yeah.
He also was the lover. He also was a nurturer, definitely a gentleman. He would speak with women without trying having no ulterior motives.
Yeah.
He was the ultimate friend, the one that would lay his life down for all of us. He was the husband, meaning to the bride, the church. The Father, he is God, the Father incarnate. And then he was the ultimate Son who sacrificed his life for our sins. And so I go through all of those characteristics so that men could see that we're much more than masculine. We need to be masculine. However, we need to exude or embody the rest of those characteristics if we're ever to expect to live a fulfilled, authentic life.
Yeah, an authentic life. I think oftentimes we don't get the authentic life because everybody's trying to live up to the falsified version of the IG reel or the TikTok 30-second post, right?
Yes.
And so how has social media and the rise of social media really affected your work with working with young people?
Well, the great thing is that the good side of it is that a lot of people have seen the message, are motivated, encouraged by it, and many have changed their lives. Because of it, I have a lot of professional athletes, actors will reach out to me and say, "Hey, it looks good, but I'm miserable."
Laurence Fishburne did your documentary.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and so, and even
light flex, Jason, just a light flex.
But even just developing a relationship with my brother Laurence, it's like we had real conversations, and which is why he wanted to showcase the Cave of Adullam, because the importance of a rite of passage in a young boy's life. Like, you need to understand all of the characteristics of being a man instead of just being a provider and protector. And then to give him a ceremony where he could denounce boyhood and then be publicly acknowledged as being a man now. Our boys are missing that. And so for social media, for them to see it, the baptisms, the rite of passage training is great. On the flip side, for what it does for my boys, it makes them think that everyone's highlight reel is their reality 24/7. And I tell my son, learn from the things you see that I do great, but also learn from my mistakes, my failures. Mistakes we teach in the Cave of Adullam are our greatest teachers. The only worst mistake is the one you didn't allow to teach you. And so when I look at social media and I teach our boys about understanding the culture of social media, the environment, understand that this is not who they really are majority of the time. And when they see basketball players reach out, the ones that they're fans of, and they come and talk and say, "Man, this isn't what it seemed. I'm trying to be a better father, trying to be a better husband, individual in society." And then they finally understand, wow, the money doesn't make you happy. The likes, the viral videos. No, what makes me happy? And then understanding walking in the will of the Most High is the foundation for that happiness. And then, of course, establishing a family. I do a lot of community work, and I talk to young men who want to start their community nonprofits or grassroots organizations.
You have one of your fans here today.
Who?
My brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah, I respect him. I'm so glad he came. I bought an extra book for him because I admire what he does as well. But I share that to say, because I tell these young men, like, well, how are you going to transform the community and you're not even starting in your home? Like, community starts when you build families. As long as you stay single out here and you're not creating your own kingdom, all right? You tripping on me. But if you're not... Wait
a minute, I feel hit, Jason. Wait a minute, go ahead.
If you're not building your own community within your home, like that's how we become a community. It's a lot of homes. Then it's a community. And I always ask them, where's your wedding ring? And that's when we really have conversations. It's not that they can't find the right woman, is that they don't love who they see in the mirror. And they're like, look, I can't bring her into who I am, have her up under me when I know I don't even feel good about myself. And so when I allow men to express that side, never condemn them, but encourage them and then give them the tools to push through it, like the earthquake of emotions. Or another exercise I have in there is called the tree of trauma. Where I teach them how to identify the roots of their tree, like what's causing this branch of depression, this branch of suicidal ideations, this branch of a fear of failure, this branch of low confidence. And typically it always goes back to the father or mother womb. And so I teach them how to uproot this tree, put it into a new environment instead of cutting off the branches, because we always want quick fixes, like you said. But they keep growing back. When you uproot this tree and put it into the proper soil that nourishes this tree, now you can purge away everything that has happened and fully flourish. And that's what I've seen from my work. Social media, I'm really going to do more videos for this book, and more so to help men because they're crying out. I can't tell you how many men I receive direct messages from who are basically on the edge of life, ready to jump. Actually, one young man, and I rarely check him, Brandi. Holy Spirit said, I need you to open this one. And I'm like, man, because I know if it's heavy, I can't just
walk away from it. Yeah.
This young man was going to kill himself. He's a graphics designer and was concerned because AI was taking over. I called him. He couldn't believe it because he would read Battle Cry every day just to maintain. Do you know I was able to reach out to my own psychotherapist, and he gave the guy, I think 6 to 12 hours free of virtual therapy.
Wow.
And now we saved this young man's life. And so I'm like, well, wait a minute. Well, how many young men am I missing? And so that's when the Most High says, I need you to let your light shine even more.
Yeah.
And you got to understand that light shining has to be in dark places. And so many of us with a bright light like these, we fear being around places where we used to be.
Yeah.
Because we're scared it's going to pull us back.
Oh, goodness.
But that's where the Most High needs us, when he matures you in the faith. Like when he sent the disciples out by 2, they were ready.
Yeah.
Once you're ready, he needs your light to shine in such a way that men to see your good works but glorify him. And so I know that requires of me to step out even more.
Yeah.
I'm actually an introvert who extroverts well.
Yeah. We could gather that though. You read that way.
Okay, well, that's good.
I mean, you're great on camera and all the things, but just your whole aura is like
interpersonal. Like if we cut this off, I'm fine. You know? And just to get it, like the young men in here, to get a group session with them instead of on camera, I would love it. But I know that doesn't help more people.
Yeah.
And I'm called not just for 1 or 2, but for the masses.
For the masses.
Yeah.
I mean, you will know a tree by the fruit that it bears, and you have children.
Yes,
and you speak very candidly about the relationship with your son. And the work that you do, it starts at home.
Absolutely.
And you talk in the book about, how you and your son will lay together. And then you even tell a very powerful story about how you baptized your son.
Yes. That was, how old was Jason? And I think he was maybe 7 or 8. And that was something I always longed to do, was to baptize my own children.
Wow.
And so Jason, we baptized in the Detroit River because of the symbolic nature of the water, the flowing of the Holy Spirit. So we go into the water like Yeshua, Jesus baptized. And to have the entire village there, my in-laws, especially my father-in-law and mother-in-law, and then all of his classmates there. And to see my son start crying before he went into the water, how heavy this moment was for him.
Wow.
It meant a lot to me because I knew it was for real. And so when I baptized him and he came out, I started seeing a different person. Even though the world tempts him and pulls him, because he's a teenager now, and if they don't have other teenagers who are trying to walk with Yah, the Most High, it's easy to get pulled back. And that's why when you talked about laying in his bedroom, because sometimes they isolate themselves.
Yeah.
And I tell fathers all the time who are grieved, like, what do I do to reach my son? I just want to just say, forget it. I say, well, what can you live with? Can you live with you moving past your pride and humbling yourself and keep asking, what's going on? Can I be around? Or would you rather bury him because he committed suicide?
Wow.
What can you live with?
Wow.
So for me, it's never an option to leave my son alone. And so without being intrusive, I say, hey, son, if I see him in his room working, can I come in and just, lay on the floor and just chill with you? I won't talk to you, but can I just be in this space? He gives me permission. I lay down, Brandi, and just either I'm working on something or I'm just laying there, just to let him know I may not be perfect, but I'm gonna be present. And that right there.
That's what
is
kids
important.
are looking for. They're
That's
not looking for you to be the perfect parent.
And for us to pursue them.
Yeah.
So I see the parents as well. They're so overwhelmed
Absolutely.
in life. Like,
absolutely.
We do trauma-informed trainings for our parents because we see the ill effects of what's going on in society, especially after COVID. So I'm very empathetic to what they're dealing with and graciously show them how to improve without condemning them, because I'm a parent.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to be tired and then get a call from the school that your child isn't performing well, or he's late for seventh hour, like my son recently was. Like, my man, you should only be late in the mornings when I'm taking you. You're in school. How are you late, dude? And so as a parent, that may be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And now they don't have the verbal processing skills to convey the hurt, because a lot of parents convey the anger.
Yeah.
Again, the hyposensory emotions. Are you able to express, son, this really grieves me and I'm scared for you. I'm deeply concerned about the decisions you're making. And I love you. I just want to be there. Is there anything I can do?
Yeah.
When you convey it that way, your child may open up more. And when my son, I mean, I'm the guinea pig. I've been trying it now.
Yeah.
With Alexis, my daughter, when I blew it with her, when I was just the hyper-masculine male yelling all the time in our home, I looked at a disorderly room as disrespect instead of her possibly crying out.
I love how you told the story before. I think you told this on the Breakfast Club. Was you were like yelling at your daughter all the time about her room and all this thing. And you said you finally had to realize, man, if I knew then, right, what I know now, that maybe this messy room was a cry out for some help in some way.
Absolutely. But you know where that mentality came from? It came from what my father, how he fathered me, rather. I fathered her with the same harshness. And I, at that time in my life, I couldn't connect where it was coming from. Where was this unresolved anger? Where was this impatience coming from? It came from the way my father treated me. And so instead of my daughter knowing that she's the apple of my eye, she felt like the worm in the fruit. And when I wrote that in my book, actually I was just reading the audiobook. When I said that line again, I started crying in the booth. I had to step back and told the engineer I need a moment, because I started reflecting on all the moments I missed because I didn't know how to process what I've been through.
Yeah.
And where we are as men now, we have the, I guess the, what's the word I'm looking for? We have the environment now where we won't be considered pusillanimous or non-masculine if we express the things that really hurt us. And so I want to, make sure as a father, I always stay transparent so that you can learn from me.
Yeah.
But also just don't like sit back, man, okay, I get it, and man, he made a mistake there. I'll never do that. But make sure you apply the good things that I do.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, it's a challenge, because we'll jump in front of bullets to save our women, our children, but let us have to go into a counseling session where we have to unpack the childhood abuse, the abandonment, the mother and father wounds. We'll run from that to go get something to drink or smoke some marijuana, because those are the things that unearthed emotions that we were told as young boys to never feel.
Yeah.
And so men who ask me, how do I become a comprehensive man? I say, run to the areas in your life that pull out the most non-masculine emotions.
Yeah.
It could be an aging parent. It could be someone's child who has a learning disability. Or it could be a relationship that pulls out emotions of fear.
Yeah.
And you may be needed to go in those areas so that you can grow more emotionally intelligent. And then you'll be able to navigate pretty much any moment that comes your way. And that's the gist of what I teach. And to make sure that men, the key thing is, Brandi, is that we suffer. We're suffering so much.
Yeah.
And you'll see the suit, you'll see the cars, but as soon as the lights cut off and we go home alone, here comes depression, here comes suicidal ideations. And I just want to let men know that it's okay to be human.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel fear, you just don't want to succumb to it. It's okay to acknowledge that, your father's pronouncements over your life have defined it, I guess, up to the current day.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you have to live the rest of your life that way.
Yeah. You said something that, literally is just like an alarm going off in my head. You said that we've missed so many things because we haven't processed the things that we've been through. There's been so many moments that we miss in our lives because we haven't been able to process what we've been through. And so when you look at the work that you have really been commissioned to do, anointed and appointed to do, like, how are you walking in this with this blind faith? Like, what fuels you? What keeps you going? What gives you the license and the permission slip to keep moving forward, even when I know you feel the heaviness?
Oh yeah.
You feel the weight of your own trauma, and then you empathize and go bring on other people's. So how?
My hope isn't in this world, and what I mean by that is, I understand I am an alien here, like the scriptures teach us.
Come on now.
And so I learned early on, being fortunate enough to be around very successful people, that even on its best day, this world is nothing. So what keeps me humble is that all that I do is in Him. My focus is to please Him. I have a beautiful family, which I cherish, but I know I can make a mistake, say adultery, and my wife may leave me. No matter how many times I repent or say sorry to her, I know if I became an alcoholic and I hit my children's mother, their love for me will change.
Yeah.
But I know with Him, when I repent and change, because He knows the heart, He knows my thoughts, He knows the path that I take. That's the allegiance that I lean on. That's my hope. That's where everything that drives me come from. If not, everything is fleeting. There is no unconditional love on this plane. The closest you will get to that in a human is the love of a good mother.
Yeah.
And so that's what keeps me going. Do I feel encouraged every day? No. Do I desire to be home with the Most High? Absolutely. I tell my wife, I say, you don't have to worry about me, committing adultery. I said, but if an angel come to my door and knock and say, Jason, the Most High sent me and He's pleased, and you can go home today if you want, that'd be a tough decision. It's like how Paul said, I waver between two opinions. Do I go home and be with the Lord, or do I stay here for the church's sake? That day right there, that would be tough, because I see how infallible this world is. I see how wicked it is, where it's going, the challenges of trying to transform a culture's mind and hearts. It becomes daunting.
It's heavy work.
Yeah. But when I rise, I say, well, can I give Him more glory with Him or down here? And that's why I keep going.
Yeah.
Because the longer I'm here, the more things like this can happen. The more boys can be healed. The more the message of comprehensive manhood could go forth. And possibly, I may not see it in this generation like our forefathers. They fought for freedom and never experienced it.
Yeah.
I'm fighting for freedom from emotional incarceration for my brothers who may benefit from it when I'm gone.
Yeah.
Right now, it's about the fight, and I don't want to quit. I don't want to give up. I don't want to meet Him and He'll say, well, if you would have stayed, this could have happened.
Yeah.
So I lay it all on the line, but that's what drives me is Him, my relationship with Christ, understanding all that He sacrificed, and who am I to bow out from carrying a cross that became heavy?
Who am I? So good, Jason Wilson. I mean, you are breaking people free from emotional incarceration. For someone who's listening, what's the first step that they have to do to break free?
First thing I did, I had to first acknowledge something was wrong. That happened when I got into an argument with my wife, and I misread her intent. I, again, couldn't hear her heart.
Yeah.
I only heard her words. I became so angry, I hit the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And she basically lost her spirit in front of me. I saw it.
Yeah, you tell a story in the book.
Yeah. And so at that moment, I realized I had a problem. I had a lot of unresolved anger, a lot of fear that needed to be purged from me. So I tell men first, you have to admit, I have a problem. I am emotionally incarcerated, and it's ruining my life. So you have a lot of people, I think Harriet Tubman, she said she could have freed more slaves if they knew they were slaves. And so I tell men, acknowledge where you are, and that you desire to break free from that. If not, you're going to stay there. The second thing I did, besides, of course, prayer and seeking the Most High, was seeking out therapy, faith-based therapy. And I didn't allow the skin color of my therapist to deter me. At first, I desired someone who could be more culturally competent, but I eventually realized I just needed someone who understood trauma. And because of his expertise, he was able to, I believe the Most High used him to save our marriage and also help me get on the path that I am now. So those are the things I would tell him to do. And I guess the last thing is, embrace camaraderie. As men, we like running in silos, have one friend or maybe two at most, but embrace camaraderie that sharpens your sword instead of polishing it.
Ooh.
And what I mean by that is,
that's a word.
The scriptures say, iron sharpens iron, so as one man sharpens another. We often say it, but we allow our brothers to stay in sin, and so their blades stay dull. So when the temptation come, the sin come, and they draw their sword, they can't cut anything. So what I mean by that is you don't want a polishing partner. You want someone that's going to sharpen your edge where the frictions come, and it doesn't feel comfortable at the moment, and you won't look as clean at the time.
Yeah.
But once that blade has a sharp edge, then we can polish you, and now you're ready to combat everything that's coming your way. So embrace authentic camaraderie and embrace responsibility. I used to believe in accountability partners, but being involved in so many men's ministries, I've seen it fail repeatedly because the only one who can hold us accountable 24/7 is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
But we can hold each other responsible if we're willing to embrace it. And so that's what I would tell men to do, acknowledge it, pray, of course, ask the Most High to give you discernment and wisdom on how to break free from emotional incarceration and stay free. Get you a therapist. For me, faith-based is ideal, and then embrace camaraderie.
Yeah, community is so key. As we begin to close out this interview, Jason Wilson, one word you are committed to in this season of your life.
One word?
One word.
That I'm committed to in this season of my life.
In this season.
You about to run out of tape because you about to have me thinking for a moment.
That's okay.
I said tape. I'm old school.
That's okay. But see, I'm old too.
You understood the joke, but these guys, like, what you talking about tape? One word. Faithful. Completing the journey. Not surrendering to the thoughts, the emotions that tell me to quit every day, the spiritual attacks, to be faithful what has been entrusted to me. And that's my goal. Yep. And I think I could say that one word for the rest of my life until I'm gone.
Yeah.
To always be faithful with what he has given me and always be willing to evolve to the next level, until I get to the final level, which is home in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason Wilson, you are a gem. You are the salt of the earth.
Finally glad we can connect. When I found out, I said, who called what? And I was telling Jada, I'm like, look, I got to see if I can make it work because it's a long time coming. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's such a long time coming, but always right on time. Sometimes we think we're ready for people and we might not be ready to handle all that they bring with them.
That's true.
And so you are a gift. You are a gift. Continue the good work that you are doing, being faithful.
Thank you.
Faithful. Vault Empowers Talks, another good one for the books. Jason Wilson, y'all got to share this one. I know there is a husband, father, a friend that needs this message more than ever in their life. You guys, please subscribe, like, comment, share this, and let this inspiration permeate somebody else's life. Until next time, I'm your girl, Brandi Harvey. Eat well, give a damn, move your body every single day. Peace.